What about threats?
I find that there are a lot more health conscious food drinks in particular that are becoming prevalent now. So they're taking up a lot more shelf space. And people are, appreciating that because they are health conscious and, made with all natural foods.
Okay, so existing fruit punch competitors.
Yeah, like there's like full labels of commercial like we need that transparency.
So there are competitors, they're not in the market by themselves, that's a threat. So some of the things that we described as opportunities, what about if their competitors started doing those? So that's a possibility. What about the threat of new entrants? Is there a threat of new entrants? Michael Porter in the 5 Forces models talks about the threat of new entrants into categories. When you're looking at the market attractiveness, you're looking at the market attractiveness of a category, of an industry, one of the things we talk about is the threat of new entrants. Is there a threat of a new competitor entering this market? Because we talked about entering other markets. What about other competitors entering our market?
Sports drinks, because they've been gaining market share, and it's juice drinks, fruit juice drinks, because sports drinks can have the same flavor but have more benefits, such as electrolytes, protein, vitamins, coconut water. So the person can get more benefits from sports drinks and have the same taste. Why not buy that instead?
So sports drinks have more benefits than Hawaiian Punch, and they're promoted that way as having these additional benefits, like Merlin is saying. It's rehydrating, it has electrolytes, and that would be a threat to, is a threat to Hawaiian Punch. Anything else you want to add to that, Merlin?
Yeah.
So we captured that about the sports drinks. And what about, so, any threat of new entrants? I didn't hear anybody comment on that. Yes. No? We don't think there's a threat of any new entrants?
Once there's opportunity, there's always right though. So
Yeah, so
someone
some of those
seeing
things that are
opportunity-
strengths, we could argue in some ways, sometimes could be a weakness. Something that is an opportunity, in some situations could turn out to be a threat. Other threats? Go ahead.
Competitors, like was mentioned weaknesses like Pepsi, Coca-Cola, those are really dominant companies that are just taking over, and they're dominant in sales while other drinks are just going slightly down because of the dumping. Like, what about energy drinks? Things like that are popping up like energy drinks, sports drinks.
So they face powerful competitors and energy drinks, popularity of energy drinks. Like, for example, what would be some examples of energy drinks? What brands of energy drinks are popular?
Monster.
Monster,
Red Bull.
Red Bull. Red Bull, remember we said Red Bull? It gives you wings. It gives you wings.
And
What
most
else?
of those companies like PepsiCo are the ones that are creating
Red Bull and vodka.
I think Coke or Pepsi owns Monster.
So Elena's raising a good point. She's saying that these powerful competitors, we shouldn't expect that they're going to necessarily penetrate that market using the an existing master brand. So they may not penetrate that market using the Pepsi or the Coke brand name, but introduce a new master brand, like Monster or some other new master brand. Anything else that you see as a threat?
And the fact that the distribution networks are not clearly defined could, lower sales and affect the sales and the distribution. So that's a threat too. So you could just go, everything would just decline if solve that.
So there's issues with the distribution network. So absolutely, that's a threat to their success going forward.
And they have different methods, I was reading the case, just different ways of distribution. The marketing person that I just got hired, she wanted to define them and make sure that they're all in sync, so.
So certainly that would be considered a threat. Absolutely. Remember I said one of the 4 P's is place. And what does that mean? Distribution. So certainly something we definitely need to be concerned about is they have issues with the distribution network as it exists. Connie?
Cabaret has a policy where you cannot advertise to children under 8, I believe, under 10. So they have to be really careful advertising to children within that age range.
So when you think about the decision-making roles, there are those in the decision-making process that are the influencers. They influence the decision to purchase a particular product or not. There's the purchaser. There's the user. So as we think about products that are positioned towards young people, and kids in particular, we need to understand that dynamic. We need to understand that the user is going to be the child. And so Connie is saying, yeah, it's very tempting. You want to advertise to children. Because even though they're not the purchaser, they're the user, but they're also going to be the influencer. So they're going to influence the parents' decision to purchase Hawaiian Punch or to not purchase Hawaiian Punch. And I think Merlin alluded to this before as it relates to parents, but aren't we also going to advertise to parents? So to kids, we're going to communicate one message, something that's appealing to kids. What is it that that's going to make them want to drink Hawaiian Punch? The product is going to be what? Something that's fun.
Flashy,
What else?
punchy, a mascot.
They can use it.
Yeah, that, right? They have something that they could relate to, right? That their personality symbol.
I believe I read that they cannot use that, or they having trouble figuring out if they should use it or not because of that reason.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Capri Sun does it a lot on their packages, like the way they put like, surfer kids playing like soccer, like volleyball, little things like that. That's how they attract children.
But it's
Well,
not
that's
like a
not children,
camera.
there's like more like 12 or something like that.
So but would you agree that the messaging to kids is going to be different than the messaging to parents?
Yeah.
Because for parents, we're going to, try and convince them or make them aware of, really advertising is not to persuade. Really, if we've done our marketing research properly, we should only need to make people aware of the product, because the research told us there's already demand for the product. The advertising should only serve as a mechanism to build awareness that the product is available and communicate the features and benefits. Not to persuade them, not to convince them. We did market research. We know that there's a need for this product in the market. So for parents, the message is going to be that that the product is healthy,
Yeah.
affordable, relatively low in sugar.
Yeah.
We want to say low sugar. Maybe it's low sugar, maybe it's not. Maybe it's 20% less sugar than soda. So the messaging is going to be different.
Yeah.
So we need to understand that decision-making process, especially based on what we're talking about now, a product that is whose target market is essentially kids.
Isn't there a ban to target under a certain age?
Yes, that's something that we need to consider. But regardless of what that age cutoff is going to be, one of our key takeaways is that the messaging to the younger people is going to be different than the parents, regardless of what the age is. So at some point, we're marketing to a product, in this case Hawaiian Punch, to people who aren't going to purchase the product themselves. So that means more than likely the parent is going to purchase it for them. So if the parent purchases it for them, we need to have some communication with them. We need to make sure that they're exposed to our advertising and other marketing communications. Anything else that you see as a threat?
Jotted down technology because that was part of like the format. They didn't mention anything about technology, so I saw that as a threat. I can't back it up, so maybe.
Okay, so it wasn't addressed, so it could be that, and I would think that there's some relevance there, especially considering who their competitors are, because their competitors are so strong and formidable that they probably have more advanced technology as it relates to packaging and distribution and bottling.
Isn't that also an opportunity as well? Because technology is also
Yeah.
changing all the time.
So to invest in technology, to get state-of-the-art bottling equipment, that's going to reduce the per unit cost, the per unit finished good cost. What else? Is there anything else? Any other threats? So what we did today is we prepared a SWOT analysis. A SWOT analysis. You guys did it. Give yourself a round of applause. Aren't you guys awesome? Aren't you the best students ever? Ever! The best students ever. So this is a SWOT analysis. So what we do is list each of the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats. Usually it's more compelling if it's done in a bullet point format versus in paragraph format, especially when you're sharing this with executives. They want to be able to process the information quickly. So this is something that we could include as part of our analysis of the organization and the industry. So we said these are the, when we're doing a case analysis, there's 5 key sections. What are they? The problem, the industry, the organization, the alternatives, and then as marketing consultants, what is our recommendation? So part of our recommendations is going to come from this. So based on our analysis, we're going to make some recommendations, like some of the things we already discussed. Brand extensions, line extensions, invest in market research, spend more money on advertising.
Can you just explain a little bit how the alternatives will look?
So the alternatives, they have a series of choices that they could make. So like the things that we discussed is the line extensions, the brand extensions, those, for example, are alternatives. But then, how does that differ from the recommendation is then you have to decide, yes, they could do that, but you know what? I don't think that's a good idea. Because of, like what you were suggesting, the brand is not that elastic. They wouldn't be able to penetrate that segment, let's say water, because there's such a strong association with their brand name and fruit punch. See, so we said that's an alternative. It's a legitimate alternative. It's something that's plausible, but then we have to take that further and say, well, they could do it, but I don't think they should. Or explain why you think it would be a good idea.
But alternatives.
I'm sorry, I just want to understand alternatives more. So it's like summarizing the opportunities and threats. Basically the SWOT analysis, and you're just like talking about.
Well, the SWOT analysis is one tool that we're using to capture the information, to summarize the information. But certainly, yes, so some of the alternatives certainly could come from those opportunities. Absolutely.
Okay.
We could draw upon those items that we identified as opportunities and even threats. So the question is, how are we going to leverage our strengths? So once we've done the SWOT, how are we going to leverage these strengths? And how are we going to minimize the weaknesses? What are we going to do to exploit the opportunities and to eliminate the threats? So in terms of alternatives, what is the company going to do going forward? Well, some of these things we need to address, but maybe we can't eliminate them. We can't eliminate Pepsi and Coke. That's not going to happen. So we need to think, well, what are these issues? What about this? We said technology is a threat. How could we change that? So one of the things we could do, one of our alternatives, is to invest in state-of-the-art bottling, state-of-the-art packaging, etc. And some of these opportunities are alternatives, but we're not going to be able to do them all, and some of them are not going to be feasible. So that's where applying the marketing concepts comes into play. So you need to be able to explain why that is a good idea or not a good idea.